Good afternoon, students. Today I want to talk a little bit about fictional and dramatic elements within films. Let me share my screen. All right, fictional and dramatic elements. What are some elements of a good story? A good story should have an excellent plot line or multiple plot lines. The plot line clearly is developed and demonstrates the theme of the film. A unified plot focuses on a single thread of continuous action where one event leads to another naturally and logically. In this scene here, we have Bruce Willis in Die Hard following a plot line to overcome the conflict within the building that people have created. The conflict must be resolved by elements or agents present in the plot itself. So there's a conflict that must be resolved. At times, a plot might be episodic and does not follow chronologically. An example of that would be Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino in Kill Bill also uses the episodic plot. A good story contains truths or themes that approximate life experience. Thus, many film stories are convincing because they conform to an inner truth and satisfy a human need to believe. A good example of that would be Forrest Gump. Films can also create an imaginary world on the screen that, for the duration of the film, seems totally believable. The plot of Die Hard seems believable, but does it happen in real life? Not typically. So, films explore what happens beyond the real life experience. Another example of that is many action films, such as The Matrix. That doesn't necessarily happen in real life that I'm aware of. What are some other elements of a good story? We have a picture here of North by Northwest and Cary Grant running away from this airplane that's chasing him. So we have suspense. We also have action, movement, and change that occurs within a film. We want to see some action. We want to see some movement. Cary Grant is running, for example, and some change. Simple and complex, complex characters, but understandable to an audience. We don't want to go too complex where we don't understand the character in a 2 hour film. Some films manipulate our emotions. Elements of a film's visual environment or setting and its creation of atmosphere can also appeal to the viewer's senses and affect his or her emotional reaction. So when we go into the theater, we have some kind of emotional connection to the characters or a reaction to the plot. A film should also exhibit a 5 act structure. This is typically for linear or chronological structures. We begin with the exposition. That's the part of the story that introduces the characters, shows some of their interrelationships, and places them within a believable time and space. Next, we have the rising action, and an example of that is complication, the section of a story in which a conflict begins and grows in clarity, intensity, and importance. Usually, the rising action is the longest part of the film. Next, we have the climax that moves into the falling action. That's the complication has reached its point of maximum tension and the conflict begins to be resolved. Then we have the resolution or the denouement. That's the state of relative equilibrium returning in the film. There we go. That's the structure of pretty much all films. You might apply this structure to a film of your choice. Next, we have dramatic structures that are called nonlinear structures. Here we have an example of Pulp Fiction, the opening breakfast scene in the film. Uh, if you watch the film Pulp Fiction, this opening scene begins at the beginning of the film, and the next scene does not contain the breakfast scene. In fact, you have to wait until the entire end of the film to see the reaction that occurs within the breakfast scene. So we have nonlinear structures. Many films begin in medias res. That means it opens with an exciting incident that actually happens after the complication has developed. So in medias res means in the middle of things. Flashbacks occur in nonlinear structures, sequences that go back in time to provide expository material. Flashbacks can occur in linear structures too. A flash forward, that's a film sequence that jumps from the present into the future. In my previous broadcast, I talked a little bit about Run Lola Run. And as soon as Lola meets a person on the street, you see a flash forward of that person's life in camera uh, camera themes. This is a picture of Castaway, Tom Hanks in Castaway. A dramatic structure also has conflict. External conflict is a personal and individual struggle between the central character and another character or object. And we have Tom Hanks struggling with the nature itself, nature as the object here on the island. We have in external conflict opposition between two characters or opposition against forces of nature. Tom Hanks is in opposition against forces of nature. Next, we have internal conflict. That's interior psychological conflict within the central character. A central character tends to be torn between equally strong but conflicting desires, goals, or value systems. We have also characterizations through appearance, such as clothing, facial features, and mannerisms, characterizations through dialogue, through word choice, and through the stress, pitch, and pause patterns of their speech, characterization through external action, characterization through internal action. Interaction occurs within characters' minds and emotions and consists of secret unspoken thoughts, daydreams, aspirations, memories, fears, and fantasies. We have characterization through reactions of other characters, and we have characterization through dramatic foils. Dramatic foils is contrasting characters whose behavior, attitudes, opinions, lifestyle, physical appearance, and so on are the opposite of those of the main character. In Ladybird, I believe you have a characterization through dramatic foils and characterization through reactions of other characters. Ladybird is in conflict with her mother in this particular scene. You also have the characterization through leitmotif. Leitmotif is a repetition of a single action, phrase, or idea by a character until it becomes almost a trademark or a theme song for the character. A leitmotif in Do the Right Thing is Radio Raheem. He plays the song Fight the Power, and Fight the Power becomes the phrase that's connected to Radio Raheem and the theme within the story, Fight the Powers of Racism. Character caricature is an exaggerate or distort one or more dominant features or personality traits. There's a lot of caricatures in Do the Right Thing. There's also a characterization through choice of names, and Radio Raheem and Do the Right Thing is a good example of characterization through the choice of the names. The fact that his name is Radio, that tells you something about the character. Also important in filmmaking is that films use a variety of characters. One type of character is a stock character. That's a minor character whose actions are completely predictable or typical of their job or profession, such as a bartender in a Western. That's a stock character. Westerns have a lot of stock characters. They usually have the alcoholic as a stock character. Stereotypes in films like the rich playboy, the Western hero's sidekick, Tonto is Lone Ranger's sidekick, the pompous banker, the unmarried aunt. A lot of stereotypes exist within films. Next, we have static characters. They remain the same throughout the film. And Walter White in Breaking Bad is an example of a dynamic character and a round character. Dynamic characters change dramatically as the film progresses. Flat characters are two-dimensional, predictable characters who lack the complexity and unique qualities associated with psychological depth. Sometimes you have secondary actors within a film that exhibit flat character techniques. Round characters contain depth and change throughout the film. Round characters and dynamic characters are basically synonymous. And once again, Walter White represents a dynamic round character. Other dramatic elements include allegory. Allegory is a story in which every object, event, and person has an abstract meaning. And Avatar is an example of an allegory, and it represents the environmentalist movement within culture. Symbolism, it communicates that something else by triggering, stimulating, or arousing previously associated ideas in the mind of the person perceiving the symbol. There's many symbols within films. Basically, find that symbol and then connect it to what its theme is. Metaphors, whereas a symbol stands for or represents something else, a visual metaphor is a comparison that helps us better understand an image because of its similarity to another image. And irony is a literary, dramatic, and cinematic technique involving the juxtaposition or linking of opposites. It can be expressed through the setting, a character, or a situation. That's pretty much it for fictional and dramatic elements. Now you need to apply fictional and dramatic elements to a film and use some of the vocabulary that I presented to talk about a film. Thanks for listening.